Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate you guys showing up and coming. Hopefully this stuff is helpful for you. And as always, even if you're here or not here, or you are watching this later, if there's anything you need at any time, just shoot me an email. Be more than happy to help out. All right, so we're going to start with 2016 number 2. Okay, and 2016 number 2 was a marginal utility question. Okay, and it was a utility maximization question. We did a bunch of these, way back in the beginning of the year. But I know for myself, when I was doing this, I kind of was thinking a little bit more about it, trying to remember all the stuff, because obviously we've been doing a lot of macro. So let's look at it. It says Martha has a fixed budget of $20 and she spends it all on 2 goods, X and Y. The price of X is $4 per unit and the price of Y is $2 per unit. The table below shows the total benefit measured in dollars that Martha receives from the consumption of each good. Okay, so we have our table here. The first thing I would recommend doing is filling out this table, right? There's a couple things that we are missing. First is we're missing the marginal benefit in this case, and then we're missing the marginal benefit per dollar spent, right? Or marginal utility. They're pretty much the same exact thing. So if we're going to look at it, I would fill out 2 columns. So I'm just going to go down and kind of should I whiteboard this. We'll just make the table. Does it take too long? Let's see. Quantity of good X, right? Total benefit, marginal benefit, dollar spent. This is going to be 0. I'm not going to put zeros for everything. I think we understand that, just for the sake of time. 16. Four, 2, 28. Marginal benefit is 12. Marginal benefit per dollar spent is 3. So this is 5. All right, and then we have the quantity of good Y. Total benefit is 10, 5, 2. Okay, and just a reminder, in case you're wondering, the marginal benefit per dollar spent is you're going to take the price of the good and you're going to divide the marginal benefit at that number of goods purchased divided by the price of the good, right? And that's the marginal benefit per dollar spent. The marginal benefit per dollar spent actually lets us know our purchase priority when we're trying to figure out, well, what are we going to buy, how much of it, et cetera, or what are we going to purchase first. Good morning to Zach and Drew. Thanks for joining, guys. Hope you guys are doing well.
What's up, Mr. McSweeney? Sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. Oh, why did it do that? Come on. All right. So I'm just going to leave that on there for now. All right. So that's pretty much our table, right? So if we're going back to and we're looking at the question, okay, 2016, number 2. Okay, this is the marginal analysis question that we have up there. So if we look at our table, the first question is what is Martha's marginal benefit of the 5th unit of good X? Okay, well, it's a good thing we filled out our table, because now that we filled out our table, we know that the 5th unit, the marginal benefit that Martha's going to get is $1. Okay, and that's just making sure you filled out your table. B, calculate the total consumer surplus if Martha consumes 5 units of X and show your work. Okay, so this one is kind of tricky. What you can do, or what I recommend doing for this one, is just taking the total benefit. Okay, so we know that Martha's going to produce or purchase 5 goods. We know that the total benefit from purchasing 5 goods of unit X, or sorry, 5 units of good X is $41. We know that the cost of 5 units of good X will be $20 because it is $4 per unit. You take the total benefit, you subtract the total cost in this case, and that will give you the surplus, right? It's the difference between what you're willing to spend and what you actually spend. Martha would be getting $41 worth of utility or benefit from purchasing it, so she'd obviously be willing to spend that much money, but she only spends $20. So the answer for B is $21. Okay. For C, Martha is currently consuming 4 units of X and 2 units of Y. So they've told you exactly what you're going to purchase here. Okay, so 4 units of X, 2 units of Y. Use marginal analysis to explain why this combination is not optimal for Martha. Okay, this one is all about making sure that you guys are that we understand the formula, right? So the formula of marginal utility, okay, of good X, whatever. You guys know. I can just write it with a pen. Okay, so it's the marginal utility of X over the price of X is equal to the marginal utility of Y, which is bad Y, over the price of Y. Okay, so in this case, they've told you what is being purchased, right? They're purchasing 4 units of good X and 2 units of good Y. Well, let's look at our chart. We know that the marginal benefit, okay, or the marginal utility of 4 units of good X is 4. So for the first one, you're going to get 4 marginal benefit of $4, right? Price is $4. Now it's going to be equal to, well, what is the marginal benefit of 2 units of good Y? Okay, in this case, the marginal benefit of 2 units of good Y is 8. So it's going to be $8 worth of benefit over the cost, which is only $2. Right? So we know we're going to get 1 is going to be less than, oop, that's not less than, it's greater than. Right? 1 is going to be less than 4. Okay? So the marginal utility per dollar spent for, okay, good Y is greater than the marginal utility per dollar spent of that of good X. Okay? Questions on that one? All right. Let's go to D. What is Martha's optimal combination of goods X and Y? Well, good. It's a good thing we did this. Okay, because now we have to figure out, well, what are we going to purchase, and what is our priority? And it's not going to let me. I don't know why it's doing this. You guys know anything about this? Like, why is it? It'll stay there, but it won't. It's kind of annoying. All right. Well, hopefully you guys have your what's called at home, your charts up, and you're looking at it. We're just going to go through and circle. I can't right now without it condensing this table for whatever reason, and I don't want to redraw the table. Okay. So remember, we start purchasing goods based on the marginal utility per dollar spent. So in this case, it's the marginal benefit per dollar spent, right? We have a $20 budget. We're going to start with the highest satisfaction per dollar spent. In this case, good Y, the first unit of good Y gives us $5 worth of satisfaction for that one unit. There's nothing else on the board that's even like that, right? The highest is for good X is $4. So we're going to purchase 1 unit of good Y right off the bat. And now you're going to take the $2 of the price tag off of the $20 budget. So we have $18 remaining. The next two items, good X and good Y, both have a marginal utility per dollar spent of $4. So in this case, since we can afford both of them, it's a coin flip. Doesn't matter. So let's do it. Okay. So we're going to purchase the one. We're going to purchase whichever one. So in this case, we're going to purchase 2 units of good Y, okay, and 1 unit of good X. So far, the 2 units of good Y have cost us $4. The 1 unit of good X has cost us $4. We have lost $8 out of our budget, which means we have $12 remaining. Okay, same thing for the next one, right? Both have a marginal utility per dollar spent of $3. We can afford both. We're going to purchase both, right? So that's going to cost us an additional $6, which means that we have $6 remaining. The next round, same exact thing is going to happen, guys, right? So the marginal utility per dollar spent is both 2 for both goods. We can afford both goods, and that is going to clear out our budget. So in this case, the optimal consumption of goods here is 4 units of Y and 3 units of X. Okay? All right, let's look at E. Okay? Indicate whether each of the following will cause the optimal quantity of good Y to increase, decrease, or stay the same, right? So this one is just kind of making sure you understand everything inside and out. So let's look at it. For E1, the price of good Y doubles. Well, if the price of good Y doubles, that means the marginal utility per dollar spent for good Y is going to decrease. You can go in and recalculate that, okay, for each unit if you would like. That's what I did. It's just kind of something that I'm more comfortable with. If you want to use the formula, the marginal utility per dollar, marginal utility of X over price of X equals marginal utility of Y over price of Y, you can do the same thing, and you're going to find out that the marginal utility per dollar spent of good Y is going to decrease from 4 to 2. So it's going to be 1 is still going to be less than 2 in this case, but you're going to purchase less of Y because you're not getting the same rate of satisfaction. Okay. In this case, I went to it and I just created a new column of the marginal benefit per dollar spent, and I took the marginal benefit of each unit. So in the first one was 10, and I divided it by $4, and you realize that your marginal utility per dollar spent is going to decrease, okay, by half. And as a result, you're going to purchase less goods when you go through the whole consumption bundle again. Okay. So for E1, price is going to increase, the optimal quantity of Y will decrease. Okay. For E2, Martha's income falls to $10 with no changes in prices. This one's a no-brainer, right? You have half the budget. You're not going to be able to purchase the same amount of goods. The number of the quantity of good Y will decrease. All right. And then the third one, okay, Martha's income doubles and the price of both goods double. So if everything doubles, then your ratios are going to stay the same. So we know that everything's going to stay the same. But if you want to check yourself, you want to do the formula, go for it, okay? You're going to get 8 over 8 is equal to 4 over 4. So you know that that is going to still be the optimal rate of consumption. And as a result, you know, everything stays the same. So that is it for 2016 number 2. Okay, I'm going to clear the board here. Stop the whiteboard. Oh, I forgot to do that, but no one's talking anyway, so it's all good. All right. Hold on 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. Kids were yelling upstairs. I had to address it. All right, here we go. Let's go to 2005, number 2 here. All right. 2005, number 2 is a fun one. I like this one. Okay, this is taxes. I chose this one because it's just a real simple overview. for you guys to make sure that you know what you're doing and how to look at the graph of taxes. We're going to share the document here, screen at least. Good. Can you guys see that? I think you can. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's enlarge it. Perfect. Okay, cool. So use the graph above shows the market for a good that is subject to a per unit tax. The letters in the graph represent the enclosed areas. Using the labeling on the graph, identify each of the following. So this is just making sure you understand what you're looking at when we look at a graph where a tax has been applied. Remember, anytime we apply a tax, it's going to shift supply to the left always, and the burden is always split between the buyer and the seller, and it's always based on elasticity. In this case, everything looks symmetrical, okay? So it looks like we're looking at unit elastic curves. So the trick for this is the only time the College Board will ever ask you any questions about who shares the burden or who gets the greater portion of the burden, okay, with actual dollar amounts, is if both the supply curve and the demand curve are unit elastic. Because when we have two unit elastic curves, the burden is shared equally. All right, so let's look at it. Using the labeling on the graph, identify each of the following. One, the equilibrium price and quantity before the tax. Before the tax, the equilibrium price is $12 and the quantity is $100. Okay. Two, the area representing the consumer surplus before the tax. Consumer surplus is the area below demand and above price, and in this case, it's going to be ABCF. Okay. Three, the area representing the producer surplus before the tax. Producer surplus is everything that is above supply and below price. Okay, it's the area above supply and below price. So in this case, it's going to be EDG. All right, if you wanted to do the dollar amounts for this, I believe you could. Yeah, for at least for the producer price, you could. Yeah, producer surplus, you could say EDG or $100. Okay, B, assume that the tax is now imposed based on the graph. Okay, based on the graph. Sorry, I don't know what just happened there. There we go. Assuming that the tax is now imposed based on the graph, does the price paid by the buyers rise by the full amount of the tax, and explain? Okay, so there's two ways that we can answer this, right? The first way is to say that, well, we know that the tax is split between the buyer and seller at all time. Both producers and consumers always going to bear the burden. So no, the price paid by buyers does not rise by the full amount of the tax. And you can know that because we know the size of the tax, right? We know that the producer price, or the price that producers are going to receive, is going to be where the new quantity of the tax line hits the initial supply curve. So producers are going to receive $11 for every unit that they sell. Consumers are going to pay now $13 because that's the new equilibrium price with the tax. So the difference is, well, it's a $2 tax. Okay, and in this case, because it's a $2 tax, we know that consumers are going to bear $1 because the initial equilibrium price is 12, and producers are going to bear $1 of the burden because their initial producer price was 12 and now it's 11, so it's a difference of $1. Okay, so that's the way we can answer that. So you can say both the buyer and the seller share the burden equally because of elasticities, or you could have done what we just did, and that's actually do the math and say, well, no, each producer and consumer is going to bear a burden of $1, and this is how I know. Okay. All right. Now let's go to C. Using the labeling on the graph, identify each of the following after the imposition of the tax. Okay. So the net price paid or received by sellers, well, we did that already. That is the producer price. We know that is $11, right? So where the new quantity after the tax, that new quantity line after the tax intersects with the initial supply curve, that tells us the amount that producers are going to receive. Okay. The amount of tax revenue, well, we just figured out that the tax was $2, okay, $1 shared by each person of the burden. Okay, we know that after the tax, we're going to sell 80 units in the market. So $2 a unit times 80 units sold, that means that our tax revenue is going to be $160. Okay, or you could have said BCD. 3, the area representing the consumer surplus. Remember, area consumer surplus, area below demand and above price. After the tax, the new price is $13. We have very limited surplus in this case. Consumer surplus is just going to be A. All right, and the last one is the area representing the deadweight loss. Remember, deadweight loss in this case is going to be the loss of efficiency or the loss of surplus. All right, consumers and producers both lose surplus as a result of the tax. The deadweight loss represents, or if you look at it, it's the wedge that gets placed between producers and consumers. The deadweight loss in this case is going to be FG, or $20. All right, and that is 2005 number 2. This is just a great kind of warm up to taxes. You will most likely see some type of tax question on the exam. I can't imagine they don't put it on there. All right. All right. So now let's look at this. This is going to be, it's 2004 number 2. This is our tariffs and world prices. Okay. I love these. These are probably some of my favorite questions to answer for whatever reason. I guess I'm kind of a weird guy. All right. So the graph above shows the demand for oil by the United States residents, the supply of oil by the United States producers, and the world price of oil. Use the labeling of the graph to answer the following questions. So again, let's talk about this. Remember, okay, when we look at these graphs and we have a world price, remember that demand and supply are always domestic, right? And so when we look at this, we have to figure out, okay, well, when the world price hits, so that's PW is the world price, okay? When the world price hits, now people outside of our country are going to be selling this good for cheaper than we do inside of our country. So that means that our domestic producers are going to produce less because they're only going to be willing to sell so much at a lower price. The rest we're going to have to import. We're going to have to import the difference between domestic supply and domestic demand. So let's check it out. A, identify the following before international trade occurs. Price of oil in the United States market, okay, in this case is P2, and for 2, quantity of oil produced in the United States is going to be Q2. It's just domestic supply and demand equilibrium in the market. There's no international competition, so it's P2 and Q2. Okay. B, now assume that the United States begins to import oil at the world market price of PW. Identify the quantity imported by the United States. Okay. Remember, the imports is going to be the difference between our domestic supply and our domestic demand. So in this case, our domestic supply is going to be Q1, but our domestic demand is going to be Q3. So we're going to import the difference. So for B, the answer is Q3 minus Q1. All right. C, identify the consumer surplus in the United States market for each of the following cases. 1 is going to be before international trade, and 2 is going to be after. So before international trade, we're looking at KGP2. Remember, area below demand, above price. Price was P2 before trade. Price is now going to be PW after trade, so that's going to increase our consumer surplus. So our new triangle or new surplus is going to be KHPW. D is going to be asking us for producer surplus before and after international trade. So before international trade is going to be the area above domestic supply and below price, and that is going to be P1, G, and P2. Okay, and then after international trade, okay, the world price decreases producer surplus, and that new one is going to be PW, P1, and J. E is just going to be asking us what now is the increase or the net gain in total surplus from the trade. So what is going to be our increase in total surplus from this? And the answer is going to be JGH. Okay, and that's that little triangle that increases the amount that we can purchase. And that is it for 2004 number 2. 2005 number 2, 2004 number 2 were very, very quick. Though that would be super nice if that was on the AP exam as a nice little kind of layup for you guys. We'll hope. We can only hope, right? So now that's going to bring us to the last one. I did not do this one on my own, so we're going to do this, I guess, together. It's a perfect competition one. Okay, so let's check it out. 2011, B number 1. All right. Suppose that roses are produced in a perfectly competitive, increasing cost industry, okay, in long run equilibrium with identical firms. All right, can you guys still see? Can you guys still see my screen, right? Everything's good?
Yep.
All right. All right. So suppose that roses are produced in a perfectly competitive, increasing cost industry, okay, in long run equilibrium. Okay, remember, anytime we see that it's in long run equilibrium for perfectly competitive firms, we're going to assume it's a normal profit, right? Because we know that that's what long run firms end up in, is in long run profit. Okay, draw correctly labeled side-by-side graphs for the rose industry and a typical firm and show each of the following industry equilibrium price and quantity. Okay, so we have to draw our initial Mr. Darp here. Oh, that's okay. All right, so probably didn't use the labels right. Let me see. It's PM and QM and PF and QF. Sorry. All right. I think we get the idea, hopefully. So it's PF, QF, QM, PM. Okay, so price of the market, quantity of the market, okay, price of the firm, okay, and quantity of the firm. All right, and it's in long run equilibrium, so it's earning a normal profit. Okay, B, is PM larger than, smaller than, or equal to PF? The answer is it's equal to, because firms are price takers, okay, in the market. C, assume that there is an increase in the demand for roses. On your graphs in part A, show each of the following: the new short-run industry equilibrium price and quantity labeled PM2 and QM2 respectively, the new short-run profit maximizing price and quantity for the typical firm labeled PF2 and QF2 respectively. Okay, so now they just want to make sure that we know what we're doing when there is a change in the market. Right, so we're going to have an increase in demand. So if demand shifts to the right, it's going to lead to an increase in price. Okay, so that's what our graph should look like. Just double check, make sure I didn't mess it up. Yeah, all right, good. Okay. So in our graph, we know that the increase in demand is going to lead to an increase in price and quantity in the market. The firm is going to take the new price, right? So this is going to be our new Mr. DARP 2. Right. So the firm takes the price. The firm is going to produce where marginal cost intersects with marginal revenue. So this firm is actually going to increase its production. Okay. D, as the industry adjusts to a new long-run equilibrium, what will happen to the number of firms in the industry, and explain. So in this case, the new long-run equilibrium, the number of firms is going to increase, okay, because of the existence of short-run profits, right? So in this case, initially, there's going to be an increase in profits. It's going to lead more firms, okay, to the industry, right? Will the firm's average total cost curve shift upward, downward, or remain unchanged? This is a question making sure you were paying attention and you read the first line all the way through in its entirety. It's an increasing cost industry. So if costs will increase over time constantly, then we know that our ATC is going to shift upward. Okay. E, in the long run, compare the firm's profit maximizing price to each of the following. Compare the firm's profit in the long run. Okay. PF in part A2. Okay. So PF in part A2 is going to be greater than PF. Okay. So PF in A2 will be greater than PF. And then the next one is PF2 from part C2. Okay. So in the long run, is the firm's profit maximizing price. Okay, so in the long run, firm's profit maximizing price, how is it compared to PF2 from C2? And the answer is it will be lower than, okay, PF2. All right. That is it. That's all I got. Anybody have any questions? About anything. It doesn't even have to be about these. If you guys have any questions about other stuff for the AP exam, just let me know. No? All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Hope you're all well. Anything you need from now until the AP exam, let me know. You guys have a great day. Thank you.